You literally get a shot of a founding father in Philadelphia and then a shot of a woman screaming in orgasm.
Yeah.
And it's, of course, a match cut. The filmmaker is like, brilliant. Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Kyneton, your fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
Very nice.
Very nice.
What if Raising Arizona was about lesbians?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we just saw.
That's what we just saw. So we are back with another one of these bonusy episodes.
Bono episodes.
We actually don't know when this is going to go out because we are recording this way before this thing drops. So this is another one of those, hey, Brian and John got invited to a press screener deal because that was awesome last time. So, hey, I guess we did something right.
Yeah.
And this week, when this comes out, we are reviewing the new Ethan Coen film. Sorry, Joel.
Hey, he retired on his own volition.
Retired on his own. New Ethan Coen film, Driveway Dolls. And this was really, really funny. I was cracking up.
I was just like,
this.
Wow, this movie went for it all.
Yeah, it threw it all right in your face.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this right now: the trailers for this thing leave a lot of the plot. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. The trailers really don't represent the whole movie at all.
And if you do like zany Coen brothers, like outrageous humor plus excessive violence, then this is that kind of Coen brothers movie. I know this is not exactly a whole huge difference in Coen brothers movies, but this is very much like Burn After Reading.
Yeah,
a little bit of
Hudsucker
Raising
Proxy a bit in there too. I would say that
extreme violence, extreme humor.
Yeah,
this is not going to be for everybody. Don't take your grandma to this one.
No,
there's a lot of
lesbian. Oh my god,
lots of lesbian sexing in this.
Yeah,
and dildos and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, I knew a little bit about this film because I'd seen the trailer for it a couple months ago, and I was like, "Oh, Coen Brothers, that's cool," but I had really no idea about it because it's like in the age of the superhero movie. Mm-hmm. How often, John, do we actually get like an original film?
What's an original?
An original film that isn't based on anything, let alone one that deals with, I don't know, lesbian relationships. And of course, we're saying this as two heterosexual men. White men with neck beards. But I mean, you just really don't ever see movies that depict that type of relationship and do it in a way that is, I'd say, realistic. Like, I know obviously in this movie there's a lot of like ridiculous over the top stuff because it's an Ethan Coen film. But, some of the moments of the relationship between Jamie and Marian, they do feel genuine. Like, you definitely see someone who is dealing with still the issue of a breakup and how do you like go on after that. And that's kind of Marian's character. So we're not gonna spoil this because obviously the movie is playing now in theaters, which in that case probably with an NC-17 rating.
Yeah, this movie goes for it a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't hold anything back, which great on them.
I think if this was a new filmmaker, I think it would get slapped in an NC-17, but I think because it's Ethan Coen, I think that he's going to get away with it.
Well, the reason why I say that it would probably get slapped with an NC-17 is because it's modern Hollywood, and apparently female pleasure is something you can't like show on a screen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because
Russ.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, everything violence, sure, no problem. But hey, a woman enjoying, sex can't have that. But no, I like the undercurrents in this movie when it comes to the different levels, because obviously you have like the goofy slapstick, normal Ethan Coen, Coen Brothers-esque type movies, but there's also like the whole plot thread between Marian and Jamie and their relationship and how it evolves from just friends to being something a bit more. Again, trying not to spoil it for you.
Because they have in a car they rent a MacGuffin.
Yes.
Well, we'll just leave it at that.
We will call it the MacGuffin. Yeah. A couple MacGuffins.
Yeah. And some bad dudes are trying to chase him down, and then shenanigans ensue for everybody involved.
For everybody, yeah. I mean, what did you think, John, of kind of the structure of this movie? Because it's kind of goofy and off the wall at points where I'm just like the one thing I'll knock it for is that there's some moments in this movie where I'm just like, what the fuck? What is that? Why was this scene in there? Or why was this like series of trippy shots in here? Like there's some things that I'm going like, not sure about the artistic need for this.
It was a little masturbatory. It was kind of Ethan Coen loving himself.
You know, John, it's very interesting that you use that word. Very interesting you use that. Of all the words you could have chosen, you chose masturbatory. But yeah, it is very much like it almost kind of reminded me of like that scene, that dream sequence in The Big Lebowski where it's the bowling stuff. Like it kind of had that little vibe to it where clearly I'm like, all right, you found After Effects and had fun with some filters and some trippy shit. But I those were things where like I'm just like, this kind of took me out of it. Now, of course, those are explained eventually, which I guess you could say like, hey, that's cool. You did a filmmaking thing where like you let breadcrumbs that eventually like make sense. But it just felt very much an aesthetic choice rather than a, hey, this is a necessary thing. I think I've done it in a more like realistic matter. Plus the transitions I thought were a bit much. Like every shot had a transition.
I mean, I guess it kind of fit the wacky dynamic of this movie, and because I didn't know exactly what I was going into.
Yeah, you had zero knowledge of it. Like I don't even think did you see the trailer?
No. Yeah. So I wondered, is this going to be like a No Country for Old Men, or is this going to be like a Burn After Reading, Coen Brothers kind of movie? And you get immediately in the first, I'd say 5 minutes of the movie, like, oh, this is going to be like a Burn After Reading type Coen Brother, wacky, zany, like things that shouldn't be funny but are because they're just portrayed so absurdly. But I think it's very interesting. That old question is like, okay, Lennon and McCartney didn't exactly write every song together. So like, which one's a Paul song? Which one's a John song? Yeah. Watching this, I'm like, I'm kind of getting a sense of Ethan Coen, like where he fit into the Joel and Ethan Coen paradigm.
I'm gathering that the Coen Brothers movies that I really enjoy, because I prefer goofy Coen Brothers. I'm not a fan of the whole like serious stuff. Hudsucker Proxy, I'm blanking.
Raising Arizona.
Yeah.
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah. Oh man, that's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite Coen Brothers. But you can clearly tell, like every time that you saw the humor shit, that was Ethan. Whereas maybe some of the more serious elements, that was totally Joel. And you can also tell that more than likely Ethan Coen was more friends with Sam Raimi than Joel was. But no, I like this movie a lot, and especially because, an original movie, you don't really have pretext to grab onto. Like, the last one we did was Mean Girls. And one of the things, John, that you had said was that, hey, you really don't need to see this because if you saw the original, you know what's going to happen, and this doesn't add anything to it. Whereas with this movie, I don't know who these characters are. I don't know what their dynamics are. And it was a fun road movie. That's what it was.
It reminded me in a sense of like Dumb and Dumber, only like these characters aren't dumb, but like the idea that they're, on the road and they have no idea that they're being chased by, people that want to cause harm to them or get something back.
But what I found funny about this is that, and this is again how you know that it's a Coen film, okay? Because you can't say Coen Brothers because it's not. But none of the situations ever felt like any of the characters were in harm.
Like harm's way.
Yeah, they were never in any harm. And they were never taken seriously. And I think that's the thing that, Ethan Coen does really well, is that he's clearly talking about subject matter that is, pretty dire at certain points. But you kind of can't take it serious.
Well, I would say that this was, I think it was Trisha Cook was the co-writer of the, and
she was co-director. Was she co-director?
Just co-writer.
Just co-writer on this.
And I really, really do hope that woman is a lesbian, because it's a little bit weird that this straight man.
I did notice that too, and I was just like,
handles this graphically lesbian movie.
yeah. And you mentioned the graph. There is, that the reason why I said like, hey, this movie might not escape an NC-17 rating is just because there is a lot of graphic nudity in this movie. That's just right in your face. And like, I have no problem with it, but I do know that most theaters would, and that most older audiences would. But I personally, I was like, okay, cool.
Like, I could see my mom's pretty open-minded, but I could see her saying, like, I liked Fargo. I'll go see the new Coen
Here's the thing.
movie.
At one point, I did think that the one person who was right next to you was going to walk out. Did you think that?
Well, he did for a second.
up.
I thought, he had left. I think he just went to
Well,
grab a drink
it
of
was
water or
during.
something.
Well, it was during a sequence in the movie where it is very much, just kind of lesbian lovemaking, and I'm just like, oh, this guy just like had it. He's gonna walk out, and he's drive away dolling out the theater.
Well, and we don't know exactly what each person represents here in terms of and I don't know this person. I have no idea what he was there for, but he could have been one of those like Christian podcasts or shows that say, don't take your kids to this one.
I mean, that's true. It could have been one of those. I mean, it was a very small grouping, which was funny because like the last one we went to was like there were people like going, woo, yeah, Mean Girls.
I feel there's more clicks to be had with a Mean Girls musical than there is an Ethan Coen movie.
Probably.
Yeah.
You're probably right there. Now, getting back to the movie, I want to talk a little bit about these characters, just a little bit. Okay, and first I want to start off with who I think honestly stole the show is Margaret Qualley's, pronounce her name, Jamie. Character Jamie. You want to talk a little bit about her character, John?
Well, she is a quintessential Coen character where everything she says is whip smart and it's funny, the Coen brothers throughout their entire career have driven that line between unbelievable dialogue and like it's almost not realistic, but they ground it enough that it's not like I rewatched Juno not too long ago and I'm like, I mean, Diablo Cody, you're very talented, but my God, no one speaks like this.
No, I get what you're saying because there are some things that Jamie says that I'm just like, do people in Texas really talk that way? Like, do are they fast talking? Lesbians talking about like. I don't want to spoil the movie. That's the problem. But talking about giant dildos mounted to walls, which, again, spoilers. That's one thing.
That's a good joke.
That's a good joke.
It's in the first act, so
it's
we
the
didn't
first
really
act.
Okay,
but I don't know. But it's you're right. It is believable enough, but so absurd. And like she is like the queen of absurd in this.
She's
movie.
whip smart, firecracker.
Oh my God!
She's like kind of like a lesbian Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, that's a good one. A lesbian Ferris Bueller. But she just had me laughing at every time that she showed up on scene, and her relationships go from like, she hates love, and it's like I'm done with it, and it's bullshit, and obviously it's mostly because of her own proclivity for fucking around. But the opposite, and what really makes the dynamic work is Geraldine Viswanathan. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. But her character Marian really plays well with Jamie. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, a little more laced up. Probably an easier person for the audience to ground themselves with because like. The other character was so over, not over the top. I don't for how outrageous this movie is. It didn't really go.
Well, it was good to have her there because it does pair well with the over the top nature. Like there, and I'm not trying to spoil the movie, but there is like a scene where we're introduced to her character and she's in a cubicle and she's talking to a coworker who's clearly trying everything in his might to hit on her, and she makes a couple comments about how any who is not a word, and he's like, well, it's an expression. He's like, an expression's not a word. and it's just it in one scene. It completely tells me everything about her character, and I love that when a filmmaker does that. When you have one scene that's like, I know who this character is, and it's usually the introduction scene. With Jamie's scene, John, how was she introduced?
Spelunking.
Yeah, spelunking.
Bedtime spelunking.
Down a waterfall.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, you'll get it if you watch
the movie doesn't waste any time throwing you into like, here you go.
You literally get a shot of I think a founding father in Philadelphia, and then a shot of a woman screaming in orgasm.
Yeah,
and it's of course a match cut, and I'm just like, brilliant. The filmmaker is like, brilliant. But they're two characters that pair really well. Their relationship does have an arc, which I wasn't entirely expecting. I wasn't thinking that, because most of the time you don't really see that sort of relationship occur in a road film. It's not, you really don't see that. Usually they're like, hey, yeah, I have more respect for you. I have more respect for you. Usually that's the end of the thing after they hate each other on the way there.
Yeah. Like a little planes, trains, and automobile style.
Yeah.
Kind of set the template for that.
Yeah.
I will say that I felt, and I won't go into any detail on his character, because, and also, dear audience, I'm not saying anything you can't pull up on IMDb. Matt Damon is in this movie, and I feel that
He's in there for a minute.
And I don't want to say Matt Damon was wasted, because it's not him.
Damon.
I think that his character was wasted. I felt like, I do feel like this film rushed to end itself real quick.
Well,
and
it felt
I won't go
very
into any
quick.
details.
It felt really quick compared to other movies. Like, I think it had to have been like a 70 some odd or 80-minute movie. It didn't feel very long. But yeah, you're right. Like, Matt Damon's in this, and so is Pedro Pascal, and it kind of feels like, because of their screen time, they're more or less there as like, hey, we're buddies with Ethan, so we'll pop in for a minute.
Yeah.
And with Matt Damon especially, like, he could have been much more encompassing in kind of the plot. He's kind of like introduced, I'd say 2/3 of the way through the movie. And then it starts to, like, dominoes start to fall and get connected. But really the villains in this are incompetent morons for the most part.
It really is like, I call it the Two Stooges.
Yeah, you've got Joey Slotnick, who at one time did play a Three Stooge. C.J. Wilson, who is another goon, and then Coleman Domingo, I've seen him in some things. I think
there's technically 3 of them. I should say that, but the 2 of them are in
the
car most of the time.
Yeah, and that would also be another thing that I don't really care for this movie, is the back and forth shit between the goons. Like, I know what they're trying to do. Like, I know they're trying to, like, say, like, hey, one of these guys is more a people person, the other guy is not.
Remember Fargo? Remember?
Yes. And what happens in Fargo happens again. If you think about that, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, like, there are scenes that work with that dynamic. And then there are scenes that are like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, they're the scenes where the goons show up at Beanie Feldstein's house, who she plays the character
Jilted
Sookie, which
lover.
I love her in this. She has only a couple scenes here and there through the movie, but she makes every moment count in them. The wall dildo scene is a scene she's in. but yeah, so she's the jilted lover who's like, again, makes a scene. But she has this fight with one of the goons, and the other one's like, he can't fight back. He refuses to hurt women.
Yeah.
And he kind of has this whole like, I just want the information, and the other one's like, yeah, we understand, we're people, and it works for that scene, but that whole thing is like dragged out through every time we see them on scene, and it just gets annoying by the end of it. So that when it does come to a climax, you're just like, well, thank God.
Yeah. I don't think that'll lose the audience. I think where it will lose is what we kind of talked about, I think, really towards the beginning of the recording, and that is the weird ass segues that, like, I don't even want to call them segues, because segues are usually like maybe between 1 to 6 seconds or something. Some of these would go on for a few minutes.
Well, it just, you know what it did, John? Like, it broke the pace of the film. Like, that's the thing, is like, and that's again an issue I have with transitions too, is that, when you throw these things in, and again, I understand that he's trying to foreshadow what eventually we find out about these segments, but they're placed in moments which make zero sense. Like, I could have taken those segments out and you wouldn't have missed them.
Yeah,
like,
if you just did a fan cut of this movie.
If I did a fan cut and said, like, hey, I'm going to take all these weird fucking segments out that really don't add anything to the plot, which is this journey of these two women, you wouldn't miss them at all. Like, it's not like Jar Jar taking him out of Phantom Menace and you're like, oh, well, there's no Jar Jar now. It's like, no, these things serve no purpose other than to be like the, oh, I see moment right at the end, But yeah, I those parts I didn't care for. And the thing too is, like, they were completely all done digitally and just designed to look digital. Like, they just kind of had a plasticky feel. Like, I don't know if they finished them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you think of this movie being placed in the 90s, the late 90s?
Interesting choice. Obviously, you place it in the 90s, and the conversation around gay and lesbian relationships is a bit different than it is now.
This is the time of Ellen.
This is the time of Ellen.
And people protesting at ABC.
Yes, this is a time where,
because her character
could not have same-sex marriage.
Gay.
Yeah. So, like, it does change the dynamics a bit. I do think there's enough time, and obviously, like, I remember 1999. I'm that old.
You mean 25 years ago?
So fucking hell. But it changes the conversation around things. Like, Matt Damon's character plays a Republican senator that's all about family values, which, got a surprise for you. That isn't the case with most Republican.
It's so 90s family value,
yes.
Republican, not compared to, like, the MAGA psychopaths
not
we have
right
today.
Now. Yeah, right now. These would be the good ones.
Like
the non-fascist
the kids
ones.
just have sweaters on. They're not holding guns.
Yeah, they're not holding guns at all. They're just they hide the guns in the closet. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting how different the messaging around politics was back in the 90s versus now. I think that was the big thing that struck me watching this, is like, there's a scene where they're saying, like, who are you two? Where Matt Damon says, who are you two? And she's like, we're Democrats. I'm like, okay.
And the thing is, like, what Matt Damon is so afraid of in this movie, if it happened to Donald Trump today, he would just own it. And all of his MAGA guys would be like, ooh, yay. Yeah.
Sorry for the, 5 people that we lost. But I have a feeling if you're going to watch and listen to a review of Drive Away Dolls, that
I need to go eat some kale at Berkeley.
Yeah,
and
you're
challenge the patriarchy.
She says that a bunch.
I just lost even more audience.
There you go. There you go. But no, I thought it worked. But here's the thing that was neat about it, was, like, it didn't feel like a 1999 movie. Some movies do that, where they overhype how different the time is.
Yeah.
Like, they still had cell phones in 1990. They just weren't the smart ones.
Right.
They
were the big blocky ones. For all you young people, sometimes we had to hit 4 keys for a letter when we texted somebody.
Man, your thumbs were sore.
QRST. Yeah.
Yeah. If
all on one thing.
Your thumbs were sore. And honestly, that's why we have acronyms like ASL, is because you had to do that with your thumbs.
Yeah.
Old man Brian talking. But yeah, John, what did you think of the movie overall? What was your vibe on it?
I thought it was funny. It kept my interest, but I would say this. When I was watching, I was like, this to me feels like AI made a Coen Brothers movie.
Really? You think that
a little. It had like it almost seemed like a best of. It seemed like it had a little bit of something I've seen from, I'd say 65% of their catalog, but just not as good. But when it's a Coen brother, it's still good. I'm just saying that like it really felt like insert what a Coen brothers movie would have here.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know if I'd go that far and say that this was kind of a best of hit film. But what I saw with this was that it's taking the aesthetic of the Coen brothers, or in this case, just Ethan, and it's their version of a road movie, a bit more modernized, you know? Like, because we've seen Coen brother films that kind of have those road movie elements to it, right? So, like, this is kind of just his version of a road movie, but it's dealing with lesbians and lesbian relationships. So, yeah, I mean, all in all, I liked it. I thought it was funny. You were sitting next to me, and there were scenes and sequences in this that I'm just like, oh my god, and goes dying laughing. The wall dildo being one of the ones.
If you watch this at home, you can play the dildo drinking game.
Oh my god, that should be a thing.
Yeah,
that should be a thing. Play the dildo drinking game every time that either that you see a dildo on screen,
or it's being used, Yeah. No, it's a fun movie.
I definitely go check out Driveway Dolls. You won't be disappointed, and I have a feeling that if it's not playing at your theater, you might be in a red state. I'm just saying that.
If you don't like your humor with spice, maybe avoid it. But if you go to a Thai restaurant and you get a 3 to a 5, yeah, this is for you.
This is for you. This is for you. Awesome. Well, John, where can they find you at on the internet?
I'm just gonna put them all together. Fucking game book. Yeah. Okay. X, Twitter, Facebook, and over at JDev's Video Nasties on YouTube.
That's a Dirty Harry video.
It's coming. I'm gonna try to drop a Freud's last session.
This might come out. I know when Driveway Dolls comes out, so it might end of February.
If this comes out and Dirty Harry's not out yet, I'm giving up.
Done.
I'm giving up.
Done.
Yeah.
Channel's closed. That's a thing nowadays of YouTube channels, like saying this is the end. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is just like J-Dub's Video Nasties are done.
I will be dropping a very under 5-minute review of Freud's Last Session, which was a movie I saw recently with Anthony Hopkins playing Sigmund Freud, and I can't remember his name, but the guy playing C.S. Lewis. They're having this conversation on the brink of World War II about God.
That's interesting.
It was pretty good. I have some things to say. So, yeah, I'm trying to get into the review game. I just want to try to keep them like 3 to 5 minutes.
Smart move.
Yeah.
You can find me at Brian Conton on the Twitter. I'm also running the Psycho Show page. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Psycho Show. You can also hang out with us and talk about this movie or any other movie by going to our Discord channel. The link for it is in the description of this episode. Also, go and hang out at our TikTok. So I know I probably mentioned this already before, because I know there's going to be an episode that comes out, a couple episodes comes out before this review comes out. But like the last advanced screening we went to was Mean Girls. We did gangbusters on the social media shit for that movie. Like at the time of this recording, the TikTok that I made of myself talking about Avantika is at 2.4 million views on TikTok.
Yeah.
That same video, 80,000 views on Instagram. That same video, 160,000 views on YouTube. So thank you all who have subscribed, who have followed from finding our videos there. We love you, but go check them out. Go to our TikTok.
And if you just listen and didn't subscribe, how dare you?
How dare you?
Just hit the subscribe.
Hit the follow
thing.
button.
Yeah,
it's a follow.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
subscribe.
I realize I'm like, I'm YouTubing it over here.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the YouTube too.
Yeah.
That's the thing too.
Follow us on all platforms.
If you're listening to us on our still image YouTube video, click the subscribe button. But with that said, we will see you next time.
A good night to you all.